how does DNA go from DNA to fucking protein folding? What is that?
Okay, so we mentioned that thing that when you are tiniest of babies, you are literally one cell.
Okay.
Right, and all your DNA is open to be read like a book. But as you grow into a human-shaped baby, the body decides to turn off bits of DNA so you don't get eyes made of skin and hands made of penis, you know.
Question.
Yes.
Does it ultimately...
Is it about the hand made of penis?
Does it ultimately end up with no...
Would you
Does it
rather
turn the
have
whole
hand
of the
for
DNA
penis
off?
or penis for hands?
I would say... So my question was, does it end up eating the whole DNA? Like, does it end up turning off the whole DNA as it's making the body?
No, so what you're going to do is you're going to turn off bits and bits of DNA as a cell, as the body branches out, as different organs get made. But you're only doing that for specialization. But your body isn't just formed at birth and then you are you. You're constantly replacing cells, right? So you can't turn off DNA. So your skin, it still has the DNA for how to code for skin available so you can make new skin.
So my question would be, so it can turn it back on if it needs to. Can it turn it back on if it needs to?
Something that is shut off? No.
So it has to make new ones.
Okay, let me explain, right? So where were we? So you specialize, you're a tiny baby, your eyes, skins and everything, that's being formed, and DNA is being locked so that only that thing will form, right?
Okay.
Now, when you are relatively young, when you're an embryo still, the cells have quite a lot of them unlocked still, because the body hasn't actually started producing anything from them, so it doesn't need to be that vigilant about it, right? That is what stem cells are.
Okay.
Stem cells are cells that don't have DNA turned off, because when you turn it off, it becomes very hard to turn it on again. It's kind of like, how do you unfry an egg kind of situation.
So there's cells which you can encode DNA onto.
No, the DNA is already present. The DNA codes for the cell. Okay, let me explain. This is what the problem is. This is why I said it's literally the story of life itself, right? Okay, so we had one cell. Now we're at several cells. We're unlocking bits of DNA away. But what is the DNA actually doing? Let's say you are now born. You are you in this room right now. You have DNA in every cell other than the red blood cell of your body, right? What the fuck are they doing? Why do you need it? Why can you just not have any DNA and go about doing your work? What does DNA actually do for you?
So from what I understand, it's basically like the algorithm for life.
Right.
As in, like, it will...
But what does that mean?
It's the thing which has certain programs in it which are like hard-coded that can activate when certain things happen.
But how does it do that?
Tell me.
Because the body isn't like a command terminal where you can put in certain information and things will happen, right? I can't like inject myself with a series of numbers and letters and grow a new liver,
Okay.
right? But the body actually does know how to regenerate its own liver, right? Because that information is in the DNA. But how does that come about? That's the problem. How do you interpret information into creating body parts, into a growing human, replacing cells?
So it has all of those body parts written, are you saying, somewhere in memory?
Nature isn't that elegant. It kind of takes a very long about route, which is what I'm going to explain. Okay, so right now in your body, let's pick a DNA cell here, right, just under the skin surface, okay? And it is being told, okay, this bit of skin cell is getting a bit old, it's going to die soon, we need to replace it. What do? We are told that the instruction is in everything else is locked away, the skin section is open for us to read. How to read and create new skin.
Yeah.
This is where RNA comes in, right? So you've got DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, right? And the smaller version you can think of it is RNA, which is ribonucleic acid. They're not very different. The difference is while your DNA is a huge strand, RNA can just copy tiny bits of DNA. Okay?
Cool.
So do you remember like GCSE science where we learned that DNA is made of 4 bases? Right? So there's 4, just you can call them molecules, that just repeat.
Wait,
constantly.
question before you carry on. Yes or no question. Is DNA an acid?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Deoxyribonucleic acid. But it doesn't mean it's like a dissolving acid.
Okay.
Acid just means something that has the potential to release a hydrogen. That's the official description of acid is that.
So anything which can react with hydrogen?
Anything that can release hydrogen.
By reacting with something else?
No, the definition of acid is it should be readily available to give up its hydrogen to something.
Okay.
Right? So it shouldn't need a prompt.
I was thinking of it in a very like psychedelic sense because of like LSD and stuff. Isn't it called acid?
Yeah, it's like lysergic acid? Something, I don't know. Yeah,
I was thinking of it in that sense, but carry on.
Yeah, but that is also an acid. I mean, it's called acid, but it is. But all that means is it has the proclivity, it has the habit of giving up its hydrogens.
Yeah.
In nature, by itself. It likes to do that. It likes to give that hydrogen away, right? Okay. Which is what makes it acidic. Anything that picks that hydrogen up, right?
That's RNA? Would RNA be the one picking up the...
No, okay, right, we're getting sidetracked now. We're going to chemistry and we should be doing biology.
No, it's fine.
Right. So you've got like this bit of DNA here, right, and it's spread out, and on it you have stuff like G, T, A, C, A, A, C, G, right,
Yeah, I
and that's the
remember
code that DNA is written in. It's 4 bases, right, and they're just that 4-digit code repeating in different variations all throughout.
Got it.
But it's like that on purpose. It's not random code, right? That is the code that will create whatever it is that needs to be created. But it won't do it itself. It's just information.
Yeah.
So this is the bit that we have of DNA. That's a little bit locked away. Over this side we have tons and tons of locked away DNA. Over this side we have tons and tons of locked away DNA, which you can do nothing with, right?
Okay.
RNA is 4 code, I guess codes you can call them, right? Like the ATCG.
Would you
right?
say they're like little biological machines?
No, they're literally just particles. They are literally nitrogen-based particles just stacked on top of each other. We just call them, one is T for thymine, one is G, glycine, and so on.
So it's a mixture.
It's not a mixture, it's a chain. They're not jumbled together. DNA, remember, it's a chain. Right?
How?
Okay,
Where are
get
the
like pen and
connections
paper.
formed? Where are connections formed? No, I want to imagine this. It's way better.
No, you can't still imagine it. It'll just make a lot more sense. Grab something.
I have like a million pens and papers around at all times. Like I've started doing this thing where like sometimes I go out and the only thing in my bag is like a sketchbook and like some pens.
I literally teach like
shit.
this.
Look at this shit. Look at this shit.
Noise. Jesus, don't stuff like this. Okay. This is not going to be very artistic, so deal with it. Right. Here is your DNA helix, right? This is what you've been told DNA looks like.
Yeah.
Right? And you've also been told it has these lines in it. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, let's take this portion.
Okay. For some reason I thought that was about to be like a this is a lie moment. But
What?
you know when it's like they told you this.
They lied
This
to
is a
you.
lie.
No, they actually didn't. They just didn't tell us enough, which is,
Okay.
I guess, worse in a way. But
Shot.
okay, so this bit, it's a helix, right? It's winding around each other like
Okay.
that. So now let's unwind it and imagine it's a straight strand like
Got it.
this.
Staircase. Not
And-
staircase, ladder.
Yeah, like a ladder,
Yeah.
right? So let's make this ladder. So you've got your backbone here. This is like the sides of the ladder, right? But what do we know about the sides of the ladder? What do you use the side of a ladder for, Ali?
Support?
Yeah, that's it, right? Just having the sides of the ladder doesn't do anything for you. You just got a long stick,
Yeah.
right? The bit that you need is in the middle.
It's the structural.
Yeah, the rungs of the ladder, right?
Okay.
So you'll have one here, and all we're doing is just expanding on this, right? We're just zooming in a bit. Now you'll find is that they are like, 2 of them have a shape like this, which fits into each other, okay? And another one will have a shape like this that fits into each other. And they can be the other way around, so it can be like this, but they are the same thing,
What
right?
do you mean by shape? Is there more
There are 2 molecules here,
Okay.
right, that have a certain shape that locks into each other,
Got you.
okay? So if you have, let's say the one that is the arrow is the A.
Okay, by 2 atoms you mean those
2
two
molecules,
sides?
not atoms. They're kind of
2
big.
molecules, but is it just 2 molecules or is it a mixture of 2 molecules?
No, it is just 2 molecules. So
Okay.
on this ladder, you've got this backbone, right? And attached to it is the chemical called A,
Wow.
right? And then you have this one, T. Now what you'll notice is the shape of A fits into T,
Okay.
right? So A can only bond with T, right? So over here, this will be a T and this will be an A, and you can just see it's just the same thing but on the other end, right? And this will be a C and this will be a G, and that's adenine,
Adenine.
thymine, cytosine, and glycine,
Okay.
right? And you can see how A can't merge with G or C.
Yeah.
T can't do that either, but A and T are buddies and C and G are buddies, right?
Cool.
They have complementary shape that fit onto each other. So if we kind of, again, zoom out, but imagine this, what you will have, if I were to cut this in half,
Yeah.
right, so we're just looking at one side, you will have, like this, A, T, C, G, G, A, G, C, A, T, yada, yada, yada. And so what are you going to have on the other side? If you have an A, you have a T.
T.
If you have a T, you have an A. If you have a C, you have a G. If you have a G, you have a C.
Okay.
C.
So
T,
really there are
C,
only
G,
2. It's
T,
more of a
A.
binary thing then. It's like there are only 2 combinations really, which it can be.
Yes, but what you'll soon find out is it doesn't actually
Do they
matter what the
repeat?
combination of these
do they
two are.
repeat or are they just like on off on off?
What do you mean do they repeat?
Can it be
like does the pattern
T and A?
repeat?
Yeah, can it be T and A and then T and A again? Or does it have to alternate?
No. Okay. You're about to see, right? It does repeat very often. In fact, it has to for the thing to work,
Okay,
right? But it
makes
doesn't
sense.
repeat
Yeah,
in the
makes
way
sense,
you
makes
think it does. So something like this. This wouldn't even be one gene, right? This wouldn't even, like the gene for eye color, it would be this times 1,000.
Yeah.
Right? They're very, very long pieces of code, and you'll
Okay.
see why they're long pieces of code.
Okay, wait, before because you might have to explain the code thing. So the way I'm thinking about it is more like computer engineering and like actual
It's not.
code.
Anything to do...
So-
No, it's not that.
So please like define that because I can't help but think about it in a sense that it's like an algorithm.
No, it's
Like a
not.
set of
okay,
code, just like
as in terms of an
happening?
allegory, in terms of a metaphor, it's not code like computer code. It's code like a blueprint. Okay, it's not you're typing something and it's producing something. Like, okay, let's say you have a bunch of numbers, and you have to write quite a bit of code to say sort these numbers from 1 to 10, right, or sort from ascending to descending, or something like that. You have to give the computer information on how to interpret it,
My
right?
question would be,
No, but
is it-
do you understand that bit?
I get it,
Yeah?
but is it temporal coherent in a sense that does it execute multiple things at the same time or is it linear?
That's exactly what I'm trying to explain. That it
So
doesn't
it's-
execute anything.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So see, that's what I mean. I was like way off.
So what I'm saying is, if I have a data set with a bunch of numbers, and I write lines of code to say the number lowest numerical value, put that first,
Okay.
then put the next one after, and it will sort it from ascending, descending order, right? It'll put them in order.
Yeah.
So I have given the computer something, it's giving me that output through processing that data. This is not that. DNA is not a code in that sense where it executes a function.
So go on.
Right.
So what is it actually? How is it achieving?
So what it's more like, you'll see in a second, but we'll just call this blueprint, because that's what it's going to be in this metaphor, right? And this whole thing is a blueprint, but let's say this is a blueprint for not something small like, I don't know, what's something small that would require a blueprint or schematic?
A piece of
A fucking Arizona IC bottle, right? The company that makes it has a plan on how to make it.
yeah.
But it's not that. This is the blueprint for a nuclear nuclear plant, right? Nuclear power plant.
Okay.
Would you send the entire nuclear power plant to every employee of the power plant and everyone who helps buid it? No, you wouldn't. You'd send the plan to the reactor guys who are going to make it. You're going to send the chimney plan to the concrete workers who are going to make the
factory. Is
chimney.
it like a factory?
Right. You have to send different blueprints to different people, which is why we lock things away. But if I send the reactor plan to the chimney guys and they start making me a reactor out of cement, right, which is what they make the chimneys out of, then it's all fucked. Right? It's the same thing as what I said earlier, eyes for hands kind of thing.
So is it like core memory? Like core meaning, like the core set of instructions that a body can do.
Yes. But again, as I said, the body can't do them. There's no executable
Yeah, I still
function.
keep thinking.
right?
I still keep
So
thinking
focus
about
on
it.
this, because this actually gets
side of it, like,
very weird very quickly.
Okay.
So you said, do they repeat, right? And yes, they do. But they repeat for reasons I don't know, or I don't know if we know as do biologists know, but I don't know because I didn't do
Just
that
for
with biology.
frame of reference, can we look at these as in like with microscopes? Are
Yes.
there
we
microscopes that
know
can
the
look at
structure of each of these acids, the exact structure.
these? And what does that
Sorry,
structure like?
they're not acids, they're something else.
What does the structure compose of? Like what is it made out of? The structure.
Well, we're organic creatures, that means most of it's going to be made out of carbon. They have quite a lot of nitrogen in them, they're called nitrogenous bases. Like I can show you, it's... You know the funny thing about this? Guess how long ago all of this was discovered?
How long?
Guess.
5
So
years?
this is the,
Ten
no,
years?
but like DNA. It's the basis of everything.
300 years, I would say.
1964 was the first time we figured this shit
How
out.
long was that? 40?
64?
64.
No, it's not 40. It's not the year 2000, even though that's where my mind goes as well. Okay, so like the T I mentioned, right? The thymine. This is what a thymine looks like. We know what it looks like.
But my question was, like, have we... So I was just trying to establish if like, the really microscopic stuff is, like, theory. Because, like,
No.
but there has been science which they don't... Like, quantum physics is a lot where they have, like...
Quantum physics is beyond the microscopic level.
Yeah, but that's where they have a lot of theories on how it looks, that they're represented by numbers and shit. That's what I meant, like,
No, because-
are you getting this from reaction? Like, is this data, or are you actually looking at it and, like...
We did get this initially from reactions, but now we are at the point where we can literally look at it.
That's cool. That is cool.
Just as a side thing, quantum physics isn't difficult for like an arbitrary sort of reason. The entire reason quantum physics is difficult to deal with is because the stuff you're looking at is very small. That's basically the entire reason why it's difficult, right? And I'll give it to you this way. You're a photographer, you understand that light bounces off objects, right?
Okay, pause.
Oh, fuck.
Pause. This is my moment to shine.
Yes.
I've literally... So this has been,
You
like,
used
my
to be a
quest.
quantum particle.
No, well, yeah, but...
Did you?
We don't know. Okay, I have literally for the past like year been working on this project, and this was like supposed to be like a project that I was supposed to like actually do after university finished. But just before university finished, I figured out with the camera that I can magnify. I can magnify very easily, like go into like the human eye and actually see shit. And that
remember.
sparked, dude. There's 2 black tubes there. I made one this room long, and it went down to like 3 pixels, and it like. I was about to send a fucking email to like one of the science YouTubers. I was like, bro, somebody with like equipment, please try to see what the limits are on this. Like, I want to see something with like natural light. So something so small, but like with lit with natural light. As dumb as that sounds, I want to see. Like I want to see what the limits are for that, because from what I could tell, from what my numbers were telling me, the further away you go, the more light you need. Firstly, but the curve was very like. I feel like it's gonna stop at some time.
Yeah.
At some point, it will not matter how far you're going, or you won't have enough light.
Okay, so
And that's where electron lasers come in and shit. But like,
yeah, so interestingly, I can use that point. Let's stretch what you just said theoretically, right? Your idea of how low can you go, basically, right? The limbo of photography. What is the tiniest thing you could see in natural light, right?
yeah,
So, as you're looking at smaller and smaller things, you're looking at less and less light reflecting
Yeah,
off them.
it's a bit.
Right?
It's-
That's the whole problem, isn't it? The ones you get to a certain point where you can't actually see because there's so little light.
yeah.
Right? You would need a sensor that's infinitely capable to be able to see
There's
a couple
a
of photos.
tiny fucking Buddha statue thing next to Batman.
Right.
I'll show it to you. I zoomed in to its belly button.
Right.
And it's like that tiny. But it took me so much light. I had to get like a fucking laser. But
Right?
yeah.
So, the point is that there's less and less light as you go down. But let's say you do have, because we're just stretching this idea to infinity at this point, let's say we can get to the absolute tiniest thing, right? And we do somehow have light that can touch it and bounce back,
And
right?
is it recording video or photo?
Whatever the fuck you want. This is hypothetical, right? So, let's say...
Matters, though. It does matter.
Let's say
Yeah.
we get down to the level of an electron.
Okay.
Right, we've gone inside the cell, we've seen a proton, we've seen a neutron, we say, okay, what's tinier than this? Let's go for an electron. And we get the electron in sight, and we get to it, we're about to take the picture, and the picture is a photon hitting it and bouncing back, right? When your sensor picks that up, that is a picture, right?
Yeah.
Photons of light bouncing back to your camera sensor. Here's the problem. It's so small that if a photon touches it, it doesn't bounce back, it pushes the electron away.
That's
Because we are so small that light at that point has physical manifestation of energy.
fucking wild.
Right? So here's the problem then. That if I'm looking at the electron, it is not where it was originally supposed to be because I fucking kicked it by trying to look at it. So every time I'm looking at something and I know there's electrons here, let me take my magical camera out. Where are they? Bang! Oh, it's over there. Wait, fuck, I moved it there. Where was it originally? Right? Every time I try to look at it, I'm kicking it.
Lightbox. You would hit it from multiple angles in a way that it would end
We
up...
do not have the capability to find single photons in the first place, by the way.
But why not? Isn't it like what? Okay, so this is gonna be dumb.
Not
This is gonna be hella
not
dumb.
direct
But
enough that
like-
we can hit one electron.
Yeah, but
it's
like-
a precision issue. We can fire single photons, I assume.
No, but why would you? But wouldn't it be easier to fire multiple ones and see how?
No, what I'm saying is we are like hundreds of years away from the precision of firing one photon and making it hit an electron.
Why would you though? Could you use mirrors as well? Like, would
What?
photons follow the rules of mirrors at that level?
Photons are why mirrors work.
Yeah, I know, but like, oh no, what? Because you could. So mirrors prove that you could.
I'll use another metaphor.
Oh no, it's probability, isn't it? Fuck.
It's not just probability, it's just physically very impossible. It's kind of like trying to score a football goal if I kicked it off your balcony and the goal was in Tottenham Court Road.
Fun experiment I did. When I
Kick
got
the football,
it
down
when
the
I
court,
got
right.
it really small, like I actually put a mirror in front of it, just to see what happens, because I was like, at that magnification level, are we small enough that we can't see light reflecting?
What?
But then, okay, my question was, so when I have it like that long, okay, so the thing which really made me do this project in the first place was a discovery, and the discovery was exactly that when you flip the lens on a camera, it magnifies, but the further away the lens goes, the more it magnifies. But the actual discovery, was that the gap between the subject and the lens never changes. So you could, by definition, have a platform on which you have your subject, and you just move the camera back and make the tube longer, because you can't have other light coming in. Now, the more light problem, so at one point, at a certain point, I actually just started videoing because taking pictures was impossible. Like, you're going so small that even if there's like a tiny vibration, it'll be blurry. And it's not even that, it's just like, so video ends up being a lot more efficient, because you can have video on way less shutter speed, whereas when you're taking a picture, you can't really do that. You have to sort of like have time. It's like, so I could very easily take a picture of it by just making a longer exposure, but in that a slight tremor in the building might just
Isn't
fucking...
that the whole problem with explosions? Anyway, what the fuck were we talking about?
We went
Quantum,
off.
right. Let me just... Okay, quick aside on quantum, then I'll get back to this.
Sorry, that was
Essentially, the whole problem with... The whole reason we have stuff like quantum physics and stuff is because when you get to that stage, things are very tiny. So looking at them changes their original position, so you don't know where they were to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to use something other than direct observation to look at them. Right? And the best we can come up with is knowing where it can go and where it can't go.
That's where the probability comes from.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then we can just, once we know what its boundary conditions are, this is all that quantum physics and quantum mechanics is, well, the intro to it at least, is knowing what the boundary conditions are, knowing that it can't leave those boundary conditions, right? And then saying there's a probability that it is here. Okay? And that's a probability cloud. So...
Did you end up using the IBM quantum computer I told you?
No.
So it actually...
But we'd set a quick aside.
Okay, cool.
Okay? But, so essentially, that's the whole thing about quantum thing. It's not related to this.
Okay.
But the whole problem is things are too small. We don't know where they are, so we have to assume where they are. But
was
it's
my
very
point.
difficult to assume where they are because they're, again, so fucking tiny.
That was my original question, though, because I was like, it was a clarification on whether
Also,
it was
something
a
I'll explain
shield
later,
or-
but it's because when you get to that stage, things are particles and waves at the same time,
yeah.
which is...
I looked into
It's
it for
weird.
quite a while. Like, so what? I know I'm on a tangent, but like, the whole point, the IBM computer, I found it was a very good like 101 to quantum physics, because it like so the way they did it was they actually have like classes on how to like teaching you how to do it, and you get like acquainted with like different algorithms they're using. And, like one of them was like, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and I started looking into it, and it's like, it's so fucking complicated. Like they're just
Wait, what
it's
did you
just
do with Heisenberg? That's one of the, like,
I don't know. I don't remember.
primary things
Yeah, I don't remember.
in quantum computing.
Because it reduces the error, or something. I don't. Dude,
No one knows.
it's so
No one knows
complex.
quantum computing. It's all
So
bollocks.
complex.
It's fucking Disney makes more
See,
sense.
that's why I approached it with I just want to look at it. Like I just want to like. I was like, what if?
No
What
one
if?
fucking knows. Everyone who's ever, like, been anything in quantum computing, or sorry, quantum mechanics, has said if someone says they understand quantum mechanics, they don't know it. Which is, this is coming from the people who basically created it.
Yeah.
So,
I
it's
got really into this.
basically
code,
magic. Fuck it.
I got really.
This is
into
explainable. I'm explaining
Okay,
this.
go,
Fuck
sorry. I
quantum
was-
bullshit. Tiny ass particle. Fucking my day. Right. So, for the point where I fucking left off the biology explanation is, for reasons unknown to me but maybe known to science in general, is the code uses multiples of 3 as singular units. Okay. So as we know, there's only A, T, C, and G.
Ooh.
But if you take 3 of the code, so you can have TAG, CCT, GTA, or CGT. You can have GTA. By having all of them 3 times, you end up with 64 possible combinations.
That's what's that's sort of like there's there's like hexadecimal, like which would that be? This be 6?
What?
You know how there's like.
Wouldn't hexadecimal already be 6? Because hexa is 6?
That's what I was thinking. I think. But, so what kind of code is it? That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, is it because it's
We're getting there.
with binary?
We're
Okay,
getting there, right?
It was just super like, I thought
nothing-
about
it's
but I
nothing-
can't stop thinking about it like code.
It's nothing that exists in that, because it's a horribly ineffective system, right?
But what if
it's,
you need
it's
that
the kind
horribly-
of system that can only be developed without superior oversight, because if there was someone smart making us, it would have made this shit a lot more foolproof, honestly. But, okay, so you've got your 3 codes. So TAG would be one of the codes. CCT would be one. No, I shouldn't call them codes. One of the, what should you call them? Combinations, right? One combination, one of the combination, one of the combination.
And these combinations work with pairs, obviously. Right?
They don't.
What?
The only reason you have 2 of them is sort of like a failsafe to check against. Have I got the
Ooh,
correct
it's like
one?
an error checking thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Wow.
And what it ensures is if it's locked away with this, then it can't lock away with something else, right? So if you can imagine, because as I said, they're all linked to each other, right? Because they only fit into each other. What it ensures is another piece that doesn't match can't come and attach, and then you've got a fucked up piece of DNA which isn't matching on both sides.
And this isn't
because
like-
this can only do with this, and this can only do with this, and this. It's a failsafe.
And this isn't like some quantum like entanglement shit. This is actual particles.
No, this is actually 2 particles like bonding, like chemical bonding,
cool,
right?
Cool.
So, yeah, so you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. Now here's what happens. As we said, this section, everything above this is locked away, right? And everything above this is locked away. This is the only bit that's available to us.
Okay.
Now, the cell, as I mentioned, a skin cell is 9. We want to make a new skin cell. So, here's what we do. We send something called helicase in there. It goes here, and it breaks these bonds. Okay? And it's going to break all of them up and down. And what you're going to get is something like... So this is starting off as your normal DNA shape, right?
And that folds into a molecule?
Hold on.
Wow.
No. We're quite far away from that.
Okay.
So, helicase has broken these bonds. And what you're left with... So here, the bonds are still... Right? You see I'm drawing straight lines. So these are still existing here. But I'll show you what helicase has done over here. You see what it's done? It's broken that bond between them.
Okay.
The two sides are now exposed.
It's almost like an open mouth.
Yeah. So what can we do with that? Well, because it's exposed now, and because you can only have this combination, we can send in individual A's, G, C's, and this is going to be annoying. It's like introducing a character and halfway through the season. But there's now a U involved. Just think of the U as the T's weirder cousin, okay?
Did the U come about because of the split?
No, it's just it's coming in from outside, okay?
Cool.
And the way T bonds to A, now U is gonna bond to A. It's just replacing T, right? So these are gonna come
Has T changed, or is something actually replacing T?
The T here is still T.
Okay.
The T coming in from outside is a U.
Got you.
Okay, it's just a different type that's similar enough,
okay,
right?
Cool.
So they're gonna come, and because the DNA is gonna be open, this will be an A, this will be a C, this will be a G, and this will be a T. They're gonna come, and they're gonna link up next to it. So A, as I said, will bond with U.
Okay.
Right? You'll have C bond with G, G bond with C, T bond with A.
Oh,
They'll form
that. They're like little magnets. They're sort
yes,
of open.
right.
To
And
like
here's the even more interesting bit. They are now. They came in as individuals, right?
Okay.
To match with their specific one. So they will match with their magnetic opposite.
Yeah.
And then once they have connected all through here, they're gonna link together. And what have they done? They've just copied this code.
Oh.
Right?
That's what RNA does?
Yeah, this is RNA.
Okay, got you.
Right? And this was one of our DNA strands. Right?
Okay.
And now, the RNA is gonna fuck off. It's copied this bit. This is the bit, let's say, coded for skin. It's copied that, and it leaves.
How are you visualizing the RNA? Is it like a blob of things?
It is like a tiny one-sided DNA.
Okay, cool. And where does that come from?
You see this? It's
Yeah.
literally this, instead of two strands.
Where does that come from?
What do you mean?
Like, where was that made?
Okay, so the DNA is, so you've got your cell,
Yeah.
right? Inside the cell you've got your nucleus.
Okay.
Inside your nucleus is where you have your DNA.
Yeah.
And the RNA, these bits, the ACGUs, are floating around outside it.
And then what?
So they have gone in here, copied that bit, formed a one-sided RNA,
Okay.
and come out. Escaped from the nucleus. These things can go in and out, but the DNA has to remain in like its protective hub, the nucleus.
Okay.
But the RNA is not out, and the RNA is a one-sided again, A, C, G, U, G,
So
A,
outside the nucleus
U,
there can only
U,
be
C, A.
one-sided.
Yeah. One-sided DNA with a U instead of a T called R.
And they're
right?
all essentially different little programs, different little factory workers.
Okay, but we'll see.
Okay.
Right? But as we said, so even these things are still 3-coded, right? These three are a group, these three are a group, we can put 2 more here. These three are a group, right? And they're, as you can see, directly an opposite copy of what we had there, right?
Yep.
So they're still saying the same thing, just a copy of it, a carbon copy opposite it. But if you were to stick more of these, they would copy the exact same thing, so it doesn't matter, right?
Where does it go? Like, what does that do?
Yeah, this is where it all actually, this is why you will see it doesn't really react like code. Okay? Now, outside here also, outside the nucleus, I have these weird cross-shaped things running around, right? And so they look kind of like this. And you can imagine there is, underneath them, a little code block. And this one will have your UCG, right? And there are loads of these around, okay?
So
With different combos at the bottom of them. And at the top of them, they have something called an amino acid. So we'll just call it amino. Okay?
Okay.
An amino acid, this is getting very detailed now, looks something like this. What is it? NCC, let's see here.
It's amazing how they managed to look at.
Okay, there you go. You've got your amino group, you've got your carboxylic group, you've got a little hydrogen here. And above here, we have R.
Okay.
R is not any given chemical, like this group or this group. R can be a simple sulfur.
Okay.
It can be a methane, a CH3. It can just be a hydrogen. It can be several different things. In fact, it can be 20 different things.
It's just an open slot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but it can be only 20 different things. Okay, there's just those 20. You remember how we had 64 combinations?
Uh-huh.
Right? 64 combinations to code for 20 things. Right? Each of these combinations, combined with each of these, which is carrying one of these.
What is the number? Give me the number. What does that multiply by?
No, it's not multiplication. It just means that we have 64 codes, but only 20 things to actually code for.
Oh.
Right? And the reason for that is some of these 64 code for more than one of these. So let's say 3 of these code for H, being the R group. Right? And that's just to ensure that if a mistake happens, right, it will still be a H that goes there, not some fucking weird thing. It's just redundancy. 64 codes for 20, that's just a failsafe measure. Have more keys than you do locks kind of thing. Right?
Yeah. I still can't stop thinking about it in code terms because it's like, I've been looking into this thing like called the game of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very cool concept. It's basically like this game this guy came up with, which was like, if you have a block, that block has certain attributes, like on whether if it lives or dies. So it's like you either have white blocks or black blocks.
Yeah.
And you can program the block in such a way that in such simple rules, like if you have someone next to you, stay alive, if not die, or like if you have 3, you can give it that simple instruction and then emerge like shapes. Like so there's this like shooting, like there's this one which literally shoots out stuff it's made. And like it's basically, that's why I can't stop thinking about it in sense of code, because it's like people are actually working on this have been working on this problem for a very long time actually, I think, where it's like from very little a lot can like emerge.
Yeah.
And this actually is way more open than I thought it would be. I thought it would be way less. Whereas if you think about it, like having the combination of 64 but only for 20 things, that's actually quite a lot.
Yeah, that is a huge amount of redundancy. That's more than 3 times.
Which is surprising. Like I thought
it's like you have 20
it had way
blocks.
more error checks than I thought. Like
precisely. And you know what the funny thing is, to build on that, here's what the error checks are like. So let's say ACG here was coding for hydrogen to be the R group, right? And I said there's more than one that codes for the same thing. So ACC will also code for H, and GCG will also code for H, for example. Right? So what's happened? Imagine if this G accidentally got put as a C, you will still get the right one.
Wait, imagine if it get done twice then? If it did
no, imagine there was a mistake here. Instead of a G, it was a C, right?
Okay.
Or imagine instead of this A, there was a G, right? It will
so
still
error check it that
code
way.
for this.
Okay,
That's
okay,
the
okay,
error
okay,
checking.
okay.
That's the redundancy.
Yeah.
That even if singular ones get fucked up.
Is there a correlation between the groups of 3 and that?
Yeah. So this group, an
So
ACC, an ACG, and a GCG all code for H.
So every group of 3
these
would
guys
essentially
here-
do the same thing.
Yeah, so like these guys here, let's say ACG with this, GCG.
What, for reference,
And ACC.
what is the amount of combinations that you can get off that? Like, what are the combinations that you could get for just
what?
the 3 blocks? Like
64 different combinations.
for every. Okay, cool. No, that's actually way less than I thought it would be. Because it's like,
Look,
it's only 64
how many have you got?
combinations.
You've got 4 things,
Yeah.
right? 4 things.
That's enough things that you can give names to them, right?
Yeah.
They probably have.
I think they do actually. Yeah. 4 things, and you want them to arrange them in 3s. 4 to the power of 3 is 64.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So yeah, if it had these code blocks, this little guy over here whose name is sorry, it's not mRNA, it's tRNA.
Why did it sound like the...
This is mRNA, by the way.
defense?
Yeah. M stands for messenger, right? So this is the messenger because it's gone in, it's copied the information, it's come out, and it's here to meet somebody tRNA, right? And tRNA has these code blocks underneath, which are again complementary to these, the opposite of these. And as I said, it's made up of these, and the R groups can be different, right? Different? What accent was that? Okay. Now, let's take a look at what happens. So from now on, I'm going to be drawing these as crosses with little bubbles on top of them. Okay, they look kind of like a person. And I'm not going to write ACC and stuff anymore, I'll just tell you where it is. So, your RNA lines up, okay, and it has all of the code. This is code, right? This is all your ACG...
Okay, dumb question. Has the thing gone out of the cell?
Yeah, this is outside the cell. Sorry, outside the nucleus. No, we're still in the cell.
We're still in the cell.
Yeah.
So in the cell, there is this and this already there.
Yes, but these are not present inside
Got you,
the nucleus, right? But you can send in singular units to make that copy
singular
inside
RNA.
nucleus, and then it fucks off outside.
And outside people
Yeah,
do the work.
outside this guy over here. So,
And
we know that this and this correspond, they're complementary, they copy each
what
other.
is the work? What is the work, essentially? Like,
You'll see.
okay.
So this here is this, okay? Instead of writing letters, I've just drawn a squiggle, right? Because I don't want to write lots of letters, okay? And I've told you that I'm going to draw these across with a little bubble on top. So here we go. We are now forming on top, right? So your UCG is linking up with an AGC, right? On top. But here's the thing, I told you the R group was different.
Yeah.
And there's redundant coding and everything. So let's say this first bubble is like this, and this other bubble is a different type, which is half colored. This one has a dot in the middle, this one has a cross, right? These are different amino acids with different R groups that I'm representing here. And this is going to go on and on and on and on. Once they're all linked together, right? And remember, this code is based on this code, which is based on this code, which is originally inside the DNA. Now these are going to link up, right? Now, when we look at them, they will be a floating ball of different amino acids. So basically this compound, but with different R groups on top of them.
Okay.
Right? This is what's known as your primary structure. And this is essentially a protein. Okay?
So by unfolding the protein, they're finding out the different structures.
No, that can be done in some different way. We don't need to go
Why are
the
they
protein route.
unfolding?
They're not unfolding the protein.
Okay.
That's not what they're doing.
How?
Because here's what happens.
Okay. I fucked up.
So, remember the R groups? They're different. So these bubbles you can think of as this whole molecule, right? But the R groups are different, these little lines that I'm drawing.
Cool.
Some will be sulfur, some will be hydrogen, some will be something. And there's 20 of them.
Is it random or is it like dependent on the...
No, so of course it's not random, see? Remember DNA specifically coded for this sequence to happen.
Okay.
If one has a sulfur and two next to it has a hydrogen, we meant for that to happen.
Yeah.
If it was random, penis hands again.
And so I'm guessing depending on the structure, the fucking... There's like a pattern. Not a pattern,
And here's what that pattern is going to decide now.
Okay.
So all of these are still chemicals, right?
Yeah.
The S, the methyl, the hydrogen. And they
Or
all have
does it
different
also-
things they
does
want to
it-
react with.
This change that you're talking about, is it joined up with other bits?
This
With the same thing, or is it just by itself?
It's by itself.
Okay.
It's just floating around by itself, a bunch of these chemicals just holding hands together, right?
Okay.
With different R groups on top. But let's say we had something here, let's just call it X. And this S wanted to react with this S, right, chemically. What's going to happen? It's going to fold over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? To touch it. Actually, there's one step that happens first. It's kind of, I don't know why we consider it a different step, but before this stuff happens, before S's start looking for X's, things either form this shape, like a spring, the whole chain, or it formed what's called a beta-pleated sheet, which you can think of as like a folded ladder. Do you understand what I'm drawing here?
Oh, this is
Right?
cool.
And it kind of is like that.
It's like making itself more efficient for reaction.
Yeah. Right? It's
Wow.
bringing things together so reactions can happen.
That's
right?
cool.
And this is your secondary structure. So you go alpha helix, beta pleated sheet. Now, S's want X's, and let's say, Z's want Y's, and this want to jump over there, right? Things want to react with each other. So what's going to happen? Stuff is going to start folding. Stuff is going to form bridges. S's usually actually make sulfur bridges with other sulfurs. So they look for those. So think of it like this, right? This is one S, hydrogen, sulfur.
Okay.
These two really like each other. What are they going to do? They're going to fold up like that. Now these two hydrogens are sticking out, and these two are bonded together, right? But let's say over here is something that wants to react here. Do you see what we're doing?
Do
We're
you
folding.
think, this is a random question, but do you think that the distance between where the thing is going to interact to it was something that was considered by our masters who coded us? That was a really
As I
dumb
said, whoever coded us was a fuckwit.
Yeah, but,
So,
like, the
I don't
distance
think they had the
between-
foresight, to be honest.
question. So it's more of like a random reaction thing, and whichever thing is more
if
like
anything,
best.
we are not coded for at all. We are churned out by a third-rate AI in some guy's shed. Because that's what we're built like. Right? Because this shit, it shouldn't be this complex.
You're right.
Right?
I mean,
We're not-
that's a lot of steps.
We're not made by anything efficient.
Okay.
If we were, we would be an executable. / make alley. Boom, fucking there it is.
I mean,
That's an alley.
but that's the thing. It's like, is that so? The more I'm thinking about it, it's like, is that complexity the reason why?
That complexity is
We-
how nature works. It keeps doing this. So let's say the first time, billions of years ago, when this kind of shit happened, and it was fucked up, whatever was made couldn't do anything and just didn't
The
survive.
best way I can put that is, the less steps it has, the less error checks it has.
Yes, that is
Right?
true.
So it's like it's
That-
adding. It's somehow.
But think of it-
by thought adding on, not by thought, but like random selection. It's like adding on, and then
Kind of. Think of it, you are onto something there, correct, but think of it like this. Have you ever seen those little fungus things and how they look for food? So there's this thing, right? There's certain fungus. So let's say you have a maze, right? Like, you've got this, you've got,
What
like...
at the bottom of a street would be a better example?
No, just wait.
Like how? No.
Okay, so right here's like a maze, right?
Uh huh.
You have food here,
Yeah.
and you place a fungus down here. What's the most normal route to get to the food? The most efficient. You cut tight on the corner, tight on the corner, tight on the corner. There you are.
Yeah.
Right, you have your food. A fungus, when it would start off, it wouldn't know where the food is.
So it goes
right?
all directions.
Yeah, so it grows over the entire thing.
Until it reaches the.
It reaches the food, and then it pulls everything back and forms exactly this direct pipeline to the food. Right?
How does it pull everything back? That's amazing.
That's just fungus. It's like quantum mechanics. It's
What
also
the
fucking
fuck?
magical.
That's
That's a
nuts.
certain type of fungus. I'm not sure if it is a fungus or some colony of bacteria or whatever. But yeah, that's how it works, right? The thing is, there was a lot of wasted energy shoving shit everywhere, right? But the end result was a guaranteed source of food,
Yeah.
right?
High risk
And that's
reward.
kind of how this works. This is a lot of bullshit to go through. But what you do is, at the end, most people are born normal and functioning.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are error checks after error check after error check. If this doesn't form a chain, a thing doesn't get made that's fucked up. It dies there.
So what you're saying is there could be hard coding, which literally makes what you need way more efficiently.
There could be, yeah.
Yeah.
If we ever get to a stage where we would make something,
Especially
I
with
doubt
this-
we'd do it this
Especially
long.
with this many error checks, I feel like you're expending way more.
Because the
energy
reason
than
there's
that.
this many error checks is all of this is happening by accident. Humans or
Oh.
a creator didn't do this, right?
So it's battling. It's more
The fact
battling
this is
probability.
billions and billions of... Yeah, that's exactly
than
what it is. It's like, you know, machine
technology.
learning,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You drive the same maze
Yeah.
over and over again, you crash into every single
Yeah.
fucking wall, but at the end, you figure out cut tight there, boom. Right? It's that. This is machine learning. This is a machine working by itself to make life, but it doesn't know what it's making or that it's life or whatever. It's just accident upon accident upon accident that's making something that makes sense with everything else being rejected. Right? The thing that people get, they get like, you know, you see how complex this is and you say there isn't a god. Again, if there was a god, this would be a lot simpler, first of all. But secondly,
Maybe
everything
no
else wouldn't have
science.
failed because we have evidence of other things that fail, right? When these procedures don't go right. Right? And that is all down to probability and accident.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we get to, as
Is
you
that
said,
completely dependent on the quantum side of it, or is it like?
What?
Is
this
that
is DNA, dude.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was just like.
You've not eaten a single round.
I'm doing this thing.
Give in.
I will. I mean, the thing is, like, I literally ate like a crap load of chocolate last night.
You can taste the salt in it. It's fucking amazing.
Totally made me forget what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. So is it dependent on the quantum side, or is that like just a? Is it just like a mixture, and it's like a random probability of like where it will hit?
Wait, are we back to quantum mechanics?
No. I'm just saying like, is there because you were saying that there is randomness to it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, is that randomness due to like quantum stuff, or is it just like basic?
No, like your basic
Molecular.
randomness of action that exists in
Okay.
nature. So, things are going to want to start interacting.
Okay.
Before you know it, because of how long the sequence is, as we discussed, you end up with this shape. Right?
Cool.
And all of these are, again, those little circles. Right? But this one is here because it wants to bond with this one. This one is here because it wants to bond with this one, yada yada. You form a protein. This is your tertiary structure. Now there's one after that where several of these can link up. That's not that important. It's the basic thing. But this is your basic protein.
Yeah.
Made and folded here.
Would you say this is the software?
Hold on. Now, what we're going to do after this... Because the thing is, you made a protein, but let's... What was our original question? I have a skin cell that wants to make a new skin cell. How will it make it? How does this answer that? Well, let's take a look.
Does it go
So-
out of the
Out of what?
cell?
Kind of.
Okay.
The surface of the cell is like that, right? Now, skin cell, what does it need to be? It needs to be relatively hard compared to the rest of the body. It needs to be elastic, can't be like bone, right? So, here's what I'll do. Hardness,
Okay.
I'll make something called keratin. Let's say this protein that we made here is keratin, right? And once I've made them, I will send them onto a cell surface where they're going to stick out. And the surface of a cell, by the way, it's not like a bubble. It's moving. It's tons of tiny particles sticking
Liquid?
together.
Like liquid?
It's almost like liquid, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But it's kind of like a... Imagine like a sheet of ball bearings,
Yeah?
right? It's kind of like that. If I stick my finger in it, it will go through because it'll push the ball bearings aside. And then when I put my finger up, all of them will fall back again. Right? So they're particles connected. It's not like a bubble surface where if you poke it, it pops. That's what I'm trying to say.
Liquid. Like,
Not entirely, because it is semi-solid. It's just made of tons of tiny particles.
we're behaving like liquid.
Kinda. It has its own very unique thing with liquid, which I'm trying not to get into, but that's going to sidetrack us again. Anyway, point is, you can stick stuff in it, okay? And this is a moving surface, so certain stuff that you stick in it affects it. So if I stick a shit ton of keratin all up in here, right? Bit of keratin there, bit of keratin there, bit there, bit there, bit there, it's gonna harden the surface.
Okay.
It's gonna make it harder to move. What's that gonna do?
Well,
it means
it's transforming the actual cell?
yeah, which means
Hold up,
when
no,
I do this doesn't poke inside.
Okay.
Whereas
Right.
if I go to my brain and do this, it pokes inside because the brain doesn't have enough keratin in the cell surrounding it, so that's not hard like this cell is because of this particular protein.
Okay.
But let's say I also want this to have another thing. I want it to have color, for example.
You're gonna have to go back. I feel like we've missed an abstraction layer before this.
Before what?
Before the DNA. Because, like, where did that cell come from? Like, okay, wait, this is dumb. But, like, how was...
You're not gonna ask me how life started, are you?
Maybe. Where did that cell come from? Like, where is that cell coming from? And how does that have that information already in the nucleus?
Your parents. Do I need to explain the birds and the bees to you, Alex?
Yes, please.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Alright. Here, I'm not gonna go through the when mummy and daddy love each other very much. We're gonna move to the biological side very
Please.
quickly. Okay. Here is Mother Dearest's egg cell. It contains half a DNA.
Okay.
Okay? It contains one of these halves. It's not the whole double squiggle, it's a single squiggle. And there is a sperm cell containing another half of DNA. When these two meet, and because one is from one parent and the other from other parent, they kind of merge their DNA and form this. This is your DNA.
So life literally emerges out of the sequence that can come out, but every time that sequence is always like unique.
Well, yeah, because there's so fucking many of them. There's so much data that the chance for two people who are born exactly identical to each other is none.
So there's actually like a lot of
Theoretically
choice.
speaking, if you bred enough humans randomly, two people would be genetically completely the same.
Holy shit. I mean, that's why the cloning
But remember,
stuff comes in, right? Like,
these are millions and millions and millions long.
would that disprove cloning?
No, because cloning is actually exactly that. I'm saying by chance it'd be very difficult. By cloning,
But
yeah,
you
fuck
have-
yeah, go ahead, make the same thing over and over again.
They can, like, so what you're saying is that there is technology out there which can sequence and start, like, kickstart life. Or like cells. Or an organism.
What do you mean? Like
I mean,
cloning?
like, okay, so an example of it would be like, you train an AI on the different combinations. So through like reward, let's just say, of getting to a certain shape. So it's like you're giving it a reward for getting to like a square shape. And through that you figure out certain properties that it might, you know, when you do shit like that with machine learning, there's like emergent shit which randomly happens. And I feel like you could very easily kickstart some weird form of life.
We'd have to be a lot more pointed than just having AI making squares and shit.
Yeah, no, but like, if they can already, are you saying someone...
I'm not sure what you're saying we already have. You haven't actually specified what
Like,
you
is
think we have.
cloning, like, legit? Like, can we clone people?
Yeah, we already have. No one admits to it, but Britain, America, Russia, China...
And was
yeah,
that
we've all probably
accomplished through,
tried.
like, a weird experiment? Or was it, like, a calculated, like...
You're gonna laugh at how simple it is.
Okay, come on.
You've seen all of this, and this is why you are like, oh my god, how did they get the exact same code?
Oh,
What
because it's
read the
actually
code?
fucking copying it.
No, but you're thinking, right, that this is a million-long code to make
Yeah.
that same human again.
Yeah.
You would need that entire code.
Okay.
And how did they get that code to make that person? How did they know what the code was?
Okay.
Right? Because sequencing the whole human genome is kind of difficult. As I said,
Are you
millions
saying
and millions.
there's a simpler...
There is a
What?
ridiculously simple way of doing it,
Okay,
right?
go on.
Remember this?
Yeah.
How there's half a DNA here and a full DNA here?
Uh-huh.
Right? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a normal cell, like a liver cell or a heart cell.
Okay.
Something that has quite a lot of the DNA unlocked already.
Uh-huh.
Right? And it has the full double strand, obviously, because it's a normal cell.
Yeah.
Right? What I do is, I kick this out, I put this in, implant that into a womb. The cell that this animal came from grows. I haven't copied shit. I have literally inserted.
That's the ultimate form of rape! Holy shit!
What? But, I mean, yeah, in a way, the literal mother cell,
That's nuts!
the egg cell, you completely kick its own DNA out, and you put in the DNA of something else, and the fucking everything else in the cell around it is like, is there something different here?
So,
I guess.
Okay.
It's kind of like, wait, weren't we supposed to meet with a sperm that was supposed to give us half the DNA? No, boss, just check, we have the whole thing.
You have
Are you sure
you
that's
have just killed the male population of this planet.
No, but it's just, you know, Wait, are you sure it's the same one? I don't know. We don't check for this kind of shit. There's DNA in there. Shouldn't we copy it? All right, fine. Fucking start this. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Oh shit, it's Dolly the sheep. You know?
That's nuts.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It's so stupidly simple in theory. Obviously, this is very difficult to do. But in theory, all you have to do is just kick this out.
What would be
put
the
this in.
steps like? Do you know what you would have to do to?
I mean, you kind of. It's not like surgery. You can cut it open and take it out. You would
Okay.
have to develop things that can go in biologically, open this membrane, detect DNA, destroy DNA, then have something that can cut it out of this one, insert it. It's all biological research. You have to find out how not to kill the cell while doing it, essentially.
So you
Right,
just
because it is only
run
one
a
cell.
sequence of steps on it. with
Through different chemicals
chemicals.
and enzymes and
It's
proteins.
like-
And, yeah,
developing a film.
I guess. Anyway. Yeah, so keratin makes the skin hard. Something else will do something else. There will be stuff underneath the skin which will be deciding the color, other proteins, right? And because of certain bits you've shut off, right, it all happens sequentially. The nail bed
Okay.
has the DNA for growing the nails, right? If I had that DNA here, I would have another nail.
This is
growing
just
from
one
here.
cell though. Like, how is it? How?
Because every cell in this region,
Uh-huh.
right, is coding, has the coding open
Okay.
to make the nail cell protein. Nails are like pure keratin, by the way. They're made of keratin, the protein.
No,
so this
I-
bit here, underneath, it makes keratin, pushes it out, which forms this hard,
I
bony
get that,
surface.
but the thing which is bugging me is this step. So after this step,
That's
like after this step, if this is just one,
Yeah.
is this just making one of these?
look. This is the egg cell. Do you not remember? Egg cell, then doubles.
I don't remember.
It doubles itself, then it
Like-
quadruples itself, and then it divides itself constantly.
Until
Until, well, at first it reaches a stage called the blastocyst. This is like a bunch of cells on the outside. It's like a ball of cells with a bunch of cells on the inside. This is where DNA starts being shut off, so the outside decides that it's going to be skin, I think. This one will decide
this is
liver,
what the whole
this will
Game of
decide
Life thing
heart.
was about.
And then what you get is you essentially start forming, you know, a little alien, giant-headed, with a tail. Babies have tails, by the way. They go away later.
Random
you start
recommended YouTube
forming
video.
eyes, you start forming a heart, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, because they keep dividing constantly. So once you have one cell that's coding for the heart, then it's going to expand, it's going to make more of itself
Yeah.
until they are enough to specialize and form a heart.
This is exactly where the whole Game of Life thing comes from.
Well, this is actually
Like-
life itself, so
Yeah,
it should
like
be.
yeah, but like
It's-
doesn't it make sense? Like, so we're saying that we can engineer this
Yeah.
in a way that if we were to introduce this, can we like fuck with this as well?
Well, that's a cell, yeah, but that's the whole thing of what genetic engineering is. That let's say somewhere in the genes, let's say, I mean, I've told you this is very, very long, so this is
Yeah.
an example. Let's say these two, the TAG and the CCT, when these two, the thing they form, it folds in such a way that it makes you have, I don't know, cancer, right? Let's just go with cancer. For some reason, this folds in such a way that by the time you hit 40, you get cancer, okay?
That's a
Gene-
thing.
But not precisely. But let's just say, right, as
Okay.
a hypothetical, gene therapy would be going in and changing this T and C to something else, and this C and C to something else,
Okay.
so that the same thing doesn't get coded, so you don't get cancer.
Okay.
But by that theory, we can change anything. So I can go into the I gene which says blue and change to green if I knew what to target.
Wait,
and
so
what.
you're saying that we can have
Designer babies,
we could have design babies which can't get cancer?
yes, with
That's
who will never
wild.
get heart disease, who
That's
will never
wild.
get diabetes, who won't have cystic fibrosis.
That-
Yeah, they will all be 6'2".
Now I want to know how
Actually, that 6'2" there is not guaranteed because you need to eat as a
how
child.
accurate is it? Like, is it still like a random chance?
It's,
Like
it's very
finicky?
it's very basic at the moment because we haven't actually gotten to the stage where we can literally pick these and like manipulate them.
Uh-huh.
We can't like change C's for G's kind of thing.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to that stage. What we can do, so insulin,
Yeah.
for diabetes,
Yeah.
right? Insulin is a little thing you take. It deals with your blood sugar so you don't fucking die. So the way we used to get insulin is we would find a horse or a pig, we would poke it in the pancreas, take its insulin out, and inject it into you, so that, because it does the same thing, it processes sugars, so you will live. Now what we do is we bully creatures smaller than us, right? Instead of bigger than us, like horses and pigs. So we take Mr. Bacteria running around here, la-di-da-di-da, and Mr. Bacteria is simpler. He doesn't have a whole nucleus to put his DNA in. All he has, because he's so simple, he doesn't need a lot of DNA to code for him. He just has a little ring called a plasmid, and all his DNA is in this ring,
Okay.
right? It's the same as our one. It does the same coding, all of this stuff, because this is the basis of life.
Okay,
literally.
before you go off it, how does that... wait, because I feel like we've gone way too ahead. How does that fit into AlphaFold? Like, them
because
figuring
that
out...
predicts how this turns into this, because this is actually very hard to figure out. So the program basically takes a hugely long spiral and tells us this is the final shape it gets to and how it gets there.
But couldn't we just tell that by the
No.
sequence?
Because it's very complicated when you have thousands.
So instead of dealing with
thousands.
instead of dealing with this, you basically find...
You basically tell the machine what interactions it likes to has,
Yeah.
and then you let it go step by step
And
through
you
each interaction, and you simulate this folding into this and watch how it
What
does.
advantage does that give us, knowing that...
Because now we know how certain things fold,
Okay.
where they fold, where they pinch together, where they do this, and if there's ever a problem with that thing, and gene testing gets to a point, we can edit it at that point so it doesn't make that specific fold. Because the problem, like I was said earlier, with like this gene could cause cancer.
Yeah.
It's sometimes not that specific. Cystic fibrosis, for example, is a disease which so you have your cell, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Just keep that. You have a little pump here. This pump pushes a certain chemical out, pushes a certain chemical in, right?
Okay.
Keeps a cycle going of chemical. And what that does is it makes sure that your mucus is wet, right? Literally, that's what it does.
Okay.
Okay. It makes it salty. The chemical it's pushing around are salty, right? Which attracts water through diffusion, right? Water wants to dissolve the salt. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Like, we're not going to go too deep into this, but imagine the way it's grabbing that molecule, right? This pump. It's not really a pump. Imagine it's more like a set of hand like this, right? And a set of hand like this. So with this hand, it can grab something round and push it in.
Okay.
And this hand, it can grab something square, push it out.
So
right?
these are like actual structures.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly why the folding of the protein matters, right? So now imagine if in a person with cystic fibrosis, this hand is fine, but this hand is shaped like that. You don't have the other hand, right? So it can't grab this molecule, right?
Well, so this signifies the characteristics of the outer shell of the nucleus, not the nucleus,
Of the cell, yeah.
And
But also function. So keratin may just be hardness, but you have other things that
Okay.
grab stuff, other stuff that does something, other stuff that does something.
Okay.
Like heart cells. Heart cells, what do? They
how
make
many
the entire thing
different
contract.
types of cells are there?
Fucking loads, way too many. But anyway, so imagine you can't do this. Suddenly, you can't push anything in.
Okay.
Suddenly, salt accumulates, but like water can't get to it.
Yeah.
All your mucus is severely dry, so your lungs don't work because your lungs are filled with mucus, and you have cystic fibrosis and you die at the age of 6 or 3 months, right?
How do they? What do they do for that? Can they do
Fucking
anything?
nothing at the moment. But the idea is that once we know, because it's a genetic disease, the reason
Okay.
that happens is because this misfolds,
Yeah.
right? So now with that AI, now that we know where the folding goes wrong,
Yeah.
it's going right by that step, it's turned over there, that one's linked there. Wait, what is that? Oh shit, it's not making the second arm. Okay, find out what that is. Oh shit, it's TAGCCT. Okay, we want it to form that second arm. What does it need? It needs actually AGG CGT.
Can you
Okay,
just
change
read
it. Once we get the capability to, as I said, to change individual
okay,
bases, right?
okay.
Now with that AI, we know where it falls, that the
Yeah.
mistake begins. We can go in and cure just that tiny bit,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're two-armed again, and no child is ever born with cystic fibrosis again.
And the cool thing about it is you don't necessarily need like precision tools to do it. It might just be like a random
It's-
reaction.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's not going to take like a surgeon literally
Yeah.
zooming into a cell doing it. Once you figure it out, which is infinitely difficult, but once you do, you're set.
That's cool.
Right, so eventually what we're going to do is we're going to scan a baby. You're going to be pregnant, you'll go for a pregnancy evaluation like they do with midwives and stuff.
Yeah.
And nowadays they do an ultrasound, they tell you if it's a boy or a girl. There will come a time where they do some sort of scan or take a blood test, put it in a machine, say, okay, right, here's the thing. Your baby's going to have issues with obesity. You have a predilection for depression and anxiety in your family. Your child's growth might be stunted because he has such and such genes. And his hair color is going to be ginger. And you go, oh god, no, right? So you say, could you change that, please? And they say, okay, right, we'll get rid of the depression, anxiety stuff, and we'll make sure the child has better growth genes, so that's fine, and we'll make sure he's anything but ginger, right? He'll be born blonde and will remain blonde. Is that fine? Yes, that is. Okay, I'll send your embryo to the lab, right? And the lab guys, they'll do their work on it, and you will get your perfect blonde, non-ill, tall
They'll
child.
just take the embryo out and put it back in.
You could just make it outside. All you need is an egg and a sperm cell. You could do it in a fucking tube. You don't even need the person inside to have it, but yeah, you can extract it. And then they implant it back into you, and then you give birth to a blonde, tall, non-depressed, non-anxious.
What do you think about that? Like, is it ethically.
Well, there's the question. It's as close as we will get to becoming God in terms of creation of life. Because you're literally taking that whole chance thing away. Everyone will be born healthy. You will not have any genetic problem. You can get rid of so much. Certain people are born with a gene that makes them more likely to be reckless, right? So when they grow up in poor households, they tend to crime. You could get rid of that entire gene.
Looking beyond
Balance that whole thing out. No one will be predisposed towards crime.
Looking beyond that, how long do you think that will, like... How long will it take until the whole of the population is essentially that population? Or would it have some sort of a weird world war between, like,
The
normies
genetics
and the
the
non-normies?
normies. Yeah, the normies.
It's just like, the Sims and the normies.
Essentially.
But, like...
You just say synths and the normies. So they're
Sims?
synthesized.
No, like, the Sims and the... That works. It's way better than the Sims and the normies. It's Zai's fault.
Yeah.
I shouldn't know that term.
But, yeah, that is life. That's how it comes about. It's
How
fucking
many-
weird. It gives you horrible things like that where
How many
body rots away.
How many chemicals do we know that solve certain type? So it's like right now, do you think if they actually first took the embryo and like engineered it, or like took it, so that something was wrong, do we have?
we don't have that capability yet, no.
Okay.
But what I was explaining about insulin earlier, from our piggy friend, I said we were bullying smaller creatures now.
Yeah.
So, let's take it back here. This is where we are at currently, and this is tried and tested, this is in the works, everything works. It's not in the works, it is working.
Okay.
So, we noticed that this bacteria is very simple, and it produces itself rapidly. Bacteria multiply, right?
Uh-huh.
So what we did is we went up to it, we took its DNA out, and we cut it in, you can imagine, this shape. Okay?
Okay.
Then we found what gene codes for insulin. We found it out through trial and error, right? Testing different things. And we cut it like this.
So you.
And then we inserted it in here. We used a glue to bind it. So now, in the bacteria's DNA, basically, there's this one section of insulin gene.
Uh-huh.
Every time the bacteria produces the proteins to recreate itself,
It does the same.
it produces a little bit of insulin.
So, and how do you collect that insulin? Like
You kill the bacteria. There's different ways of filtering stuff out.
Whoa, I didn't even think.
And that is how we give insulin to diabetic people now. We just bully a bacteria into producing it for us by fucking with its DNA. It thinks it's making itself. No, bitch.
And how much can you make from that?
Infinite amount, as long as the bacteria keeps living.
Do you have to feed it?
Yeah.
Like energy, like what? Like,
Well, whatever the fuck bacteria eat.
okay.
Yeah, as long as the bacteria can reproduce itself, it can produce insulin.
Yeah. So, really, we have it figured out.
We have that bit figured out, yeah, which is why the hope for genetic therapy is quite high now.
And it's like, how?
But the
how
problem
many
is essentially you
different
have to do it
things
to the unborn. You can't go to, let's say someone has somehow through medication survived until like 13 with
Yeah.
cystic fibrosis. There's very little hope that we can just inject them with something that cures them, you know? Because they are now that person. Every cell of their body
Yeah.
is themselves. You can't replace all of that. You'd have to catch it when you're at this stage, when you're 4 cells or 3 cells or 6, you know?
Or before.
Or before, literally right as everything starts.
It's interesting that, like, if it goes exactly like this, there will be a generation. If it goes, like, you know, like, if you look into the future and it's like, if you see the generation which is born through this, like, they will have this, like, clear difference.
Yeah.
With the generation before. It will be like, they, I guess, like, to them, will be weird.
We'll be
Like-
inferior.
No, but
we
not just
have-
inferior, I feel like we'll have more variety.
Yeah, we will have more variety, but that is
Right.
technically inferior, because with variety we also have all of the diseases which we're susceptible to because of our parents, our mentality a certain way, and all of those things. But at the end of the day, genetics is only one part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
The other part is how you raise children, because the brain develops separately
Yeah.
after birth.
But you could just give everybody clone children and they'll.
But there's that thing that I
different
mentioned, there's that gene which makes people more reckless or less reckless, right? The people who grew up in poor communities with that gene, they have shown a bit of a susceptibility towards crime. People with that gene that grow up in rich households where there's no need for money and
I mean,
stuff,
these are
they
social
guess what they end
things,
up doing? Extreme sports,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like
Because
this-
the
I feel
same
like
rush
this is
as you would get from mugging someone,
Like, yeah.
they decide to like paraglide into a fucking canyon because they have the money to do it.
I feel like this is more of a social thing, though.
But
Like,
there are genes
it-
that code.
But what I'm saying is just like what happens when, so is that sort of like a utopia kind of situation where you have a certain set of ideas? Like, okay, so I'm thinking like this generation which will be born through this. Surely their ideas of things would be a lot more, I don't know, would it be more individual, more like
I mean,
collective?
who knows?
Because my thing is, it's like, if they are in a form, and there's not that many of them, surely they become collective beings.
Not necessarily, because at the end of the day, you haven't altered the entire DNA.
It's still random. So that's what the hope is. Where
Yeah,
it's
you're,
like there's
by
still
design
that
of being,
random
you can edit
humanness.
things you don't like, but
Yeah.
there is still enough
There's
DNA left
like,
over that you will be
for
unique.
human, it's just random.
Yeah, you will still be unique.
Okay.
It's just you will lack certain
Yeah,
genes
I
or
was,
have certain genes.
I was imagining some very dystopian.
Yeah, and everyone would be like a clone of each other,
Yeah.
kind of thing. You would
No, but
still
I was
be,
imagining like if everybody was a clone, they would still end up being different people. But culturally, what would that imply? Like,
what, like a clone society? What would
yeah,
it be like?
yeah. Like, would you think they'll have more collective? Because they're essentially like one physically, but individuals from their own points of view.
I have no scientific backing for what I'm going to say,
This
but
is we're in sci-fi realms right now. There's no such thing as scientific backing. Just have space.
I don't think they would be a collective, because with humans as it is, even when there are very little differences between us,
Yeah.
we find a way to fuck each other up massively. So I think even being a clone isn't good enough, because the little variations in how you grew up, what specific unique experiences you had, because every experience is unique, right? Even the tiniest bit. Let's say you have a class of clones, and teacher's teaching them, the kid at the back has a different
Yeah.
experience to the one at the front,
Yeah.
right? And you're always going to have something to create differences on, and everyone is going to be fiercely individual at the end of the day, like normal human beings are.
Yeah.
I don't think it would lead to some sort of like collective consciousness or
Well, it's,
anything
it's,
like that.
it's the idea of like every perspective is unique.
Yeah, right. And it's
so
not just unique in a subjective sort of sense. When you're growing
literal,
up,
like,
that perspective is literally forming neurons in your
Yeah.
brain that will change how you think.
a very fucking
Kids
cool
that sit
thing
at the
I found
back of
out.
the class, right?
Yeah.
Their entire life are a certain way, aren't they?
I guess
right?
so. Yeah.
And at one point, they would have considered, why am I the kid that sits at the back? Why am I like people
Yeah.
that sit here? It's like when you go to uni, right? In our uni, everyone who sits at the front is what we call a gunner, right? People who just want to get the fucking information, want to learn it, practice it, right? And then want to go ahead, ace the exam with it and everything.
Nice.
And then you have people at the back who are literally just half awake, deadly hungover, right? Trying to make it fucking through. But the thing is, those people at the front have always been like that. They were like that in college, they were like that in school, they were like that in primary, right? And it's that kind of thing that...
So happy these studies aren't based on me.
Yeah. No, but this isn't a study, this is mainly conjecture. But I'm just saying, isn't it a thing? Would you not agree that the kind of...
Personally,
there
no.
is a kind of person...
There's personally no, and that's why I say it's a social thing, because
I
I've
think that
gone
it's a
through
sciences thing,
the
'cause in
example.
our lectures...
No, but the example you gave, it's like I've done both sides of those.
Like, I'm not talking
genuinely.
that you can't switch. What I'm saying is...
But that's why I'm
in
saying it's
terms of
social.
something like sciences, instead of chemistry specifically, right? This is almost like a joke between us about people who sit at the front.
Oh, okay.
Because we'd say they're a certain type of person. They're the kind of uber nerd that even people at UCL find weird, right? And but what I'm saying about those people is they've always been like that, right? But because of that, their perspective on life is a certain way about things, right? When those,
It
'cause to
always
those
seems
guys,
like an assumption, so it doesn't quite add up. That's
trust
the
me,
thing.
I
It's like-
am friends with enough of them.
Okay.
They are all
So you're
very
saying they have
similar.
similar personalities?
They have similar personalities. What I'm saying is, their similar personalities are based on the perspective of always being the type of child that's at the front. No, I'm not saying just that, right?
Okay.
What I'm saying is, they're the kind of people that come to a lesson to just learn, right? Whereas me, sometimes I go to lessons because I know a mate of mine is going to be at the lesson, we can chill at the back, right? But that is based on the fact that I've never liked sitting at the front, I've never liked paying that much attention to what's going on, right? You remember us in maths class in year 10, at the back with a little hole in the wall that we kept poking, right? That's how I have been. That's where I like being. I like studying and learning new things, but I'm not one of those people that will always sit at the front and always pay the most attention. Sometimes I'll fall asleep in the back of the lecture hall.
The classroom
Right.
experience isn't exactly like a movie, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
But my point, to relate back to that clone thing, is even if the children who sit at the front of the clone class and children who sit at the back of the clone class
Yeah.
will have different personalities. If you account for everything else, saying these are clones who we're trying to make sure grow up equal,
Yeah.
even if you can account for everything,
I wonder what kind
you
of
can never account for all perspectives.
I wonder what kind of like clothes they would wear. They all look the same, so they have to distinguish themselves.
They'd be naked.
Do you think?
Do you really think? No, I don't know.
Like,
I'm not
okay,
maybe.
we've seen each other's dick sizes. Why not?
Each other dick sizes, we are all the
We
same
are
dick.
all the dick.
We are the same dick.
That's weird, man. I think that'll turn into some collective shit. Simply because they're all the dick.
But here's the thing: there will always be differences because of environment.
There will always be but I feel like culturally it impacts a lot. And they were in dystopian land, but I feel like if there was a society.
Do you remember
like
that
this
episode of Rick and Morty where Rick dates this multi-being thing,
yeah.
right? Do you remember what happens when Morty and his sister like take the mind control of the being off from them? Do you remember they fight over about what shape their nipples are? Right, turns out that planet has a huge race war. They look exactly the same, but their nipples are different, and that's what they fight over. And that's what I'm saying. That humans are like that. We will always find tribalism, right? Think about it. When you live in the same, two countries side by side might hate each other, right? Let's say I don't know, India and Pakistan, right? We are different culturally in certain ways. Not that much, right? India is closer to Pakistan than fucking Australia, but we don't hate Australia that much just because we're next to India, and because they're similar enough but just ever so different. We fucking hate them, right? But then, you go within a country, and a Chelsea fan hates a Tottenham fan. I say, well, what's that about? You're the same race. You grow up in the same fucking city. You live in the same city. Both your teams are in the same city. You wear fucking blue, both of you. What's the hate about? Right? But that's my point, that even if you can account for fucking everything, humans will not reach collective consciousness.
But that's exactly why I'm saying that situation sounds like one.
But it will not happen.
I feel like it will be
if
this
we
weird
can
cesspool of like, everybody will have individual perspectives, sure, but culturally and socially, I feel like it'll turn into this like,
it will
we are all one, and we can like.
I don't think so. I mean, this is just a matter of opinion, you know.
No,
I'm
sort of doing like devil's advocate as well, because again, I said like, we're literally in like dystopian land here, because I feel like this would never happen simply because of the whole randomness thing you said. Like how we can change certain things, but there's no point.
Everyone. You know, like how clone troopers in Star Wars, they were all the clones of Jango Fett, right? It was a Mandalorian, I think.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. And because he was so genetically perfect and a really good warrior, they decided, fuck recruiting people, just make this guy over and over again.
Which is wild, because, like, where does the... that's so dark, that I'm just thinking now that scene being, like, completely white, like, it really helps, because if that scene was in complete, like, if the floor was, like, white, and all of the clone troopers were actually black, that would be terrifying. Like, but that's terrible. That's really, really terrible, because it's like because all of those clones have thought.
Yeah.
And they have perspectives, and it's like, they're just, so what does that leave? Like, what is the price of life at that point?
Inherently quite little, because you can make it at will.
Yeah. Would you think people back
if you have the capability to make 500 stormtroopers an hour, right? Losing 20,000 a battle doesn't really matter. That's a day's work.
This is a very out there question, but would backing yourself up in this scenario be clever? If let's just say you left like a very big digital archive of your life.
What do you mean backing yourself up?
So, after you die, your clone is born, and it is taught on all of your experiences collectively. So, you sort of live on, but not really.
Well, it wouldn't matter. You can back yourself up, but you die. It's the same thing. To experience something and to be taught it are, again, two different things, right?
That's a bit. The one person I've found in this, like, weird... I think should do, yeah. I have soy milk as well. Well, basically switch. I think you just got milk, like, normal milk. Oh, it might have gone off, actually. Check it.
Good till Friday, bitches.
There's a double shift though.
No.
Just get soy milk. It's like, the reason why I get soy milk is because it lasts way longer.
Because you're a faggot.
No, it lasts. Dude, I waste this shit. I get this and then half of it just like goes bad. With soy milk, it doesn't go bad. So it's like, you can just keep it going within the fridge. Just.
You know the funny thing about this whole thing is, by the way?
What?
Show this to anyone who's done A-level biology, and they'll be like, oh, transcription and translation. This just a series of images. You wouldn't need to say a word to them. They look at it and be like, who the fuck was explaining cell division to you? Cell specialization and shit. They would be able to name, literally, if you could erase these, they would know what each of these things mean. Because we all were taught it in the same way.
I don't remember.
You didn't do A-level biology. This is A-level biology. This is GCSE.
We did Did we do A? Oh, you mean college? Yeah, college.
Yeah, but all of us there, we remember this. We had some weird tricks to make us remember shit, man. You know how, like, species have Latin names, like scientific names?
Yeah.
So, the way that works is everything stems from one thing, and then you can split families apart and apart and apart, and you get to the point where, you know, this thing is related by this much to this thing, but they're different species.
Yeah.
the way those stages work is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Right? Guess how I know that order, even though it's been 6 years since I did this? Because the first lesson in genetics I walked in, our teacher, she played this super cringe song from the 90s, right? It was like an educational song for kids in school. And the kids, just for the chorus of the song, is literally kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, right? And they do this like 17 times in the song. And my teacher said, looking at the entire class, she said, none of you will ever forget the order of this. And if someone gets this wrong in a fucking exam, I will kill you. And yet, kingdom, phylum, class. When I said to you, there are 7 stages, I'm in kingdom, phylum, class, pause, order, family, genus, species.
Wow.
That's what I remember, and I will always remember that.
Cool. I was gonna. So there's this one guy I found in my rabbit hole of term stuff, which was Richard Feynman, and for some reason, I don't get reason, he's the best teacher I've ever seen. Like the dude puts stuff in ways that is so much more simpler. It's like what's your favorite teacher ever? Do you have a favorite teacher? He's like them, but like times 100.
Mr. Carty. Chester. GCSE. French
Did you do
teacher.
French with him?
He was the only person I actually learned French on.
GCSE French was so weird for me. I remember just like going to the first thing and then going to the fourth thing. And
Oh,
then
and I
going to
had
the
another
first thing.
teacher, I can't actually remember his name, I think it was Mr. Hayward. He taught us A-level mechanics in our second year. And mechanics is just, I guess you can call it the study of moving objects. And yeah, fucking that dude puts you in perspective in certain ways. Like one of the very simple things he did is, and this is going to sound dumb because of how simple it is, he said 0 is nothing, right? And I want you to remember that 0 is nothing. And at first, you know, you're like, fucking duh, what else would it be? But then it makes so much sense. If you work out the value of something and it comes out as 0, like let's say acceleration, it means the object is not accelerated, right? And it was just that very simple thing, and he made it like, he drilled it into us. If the answer to something was 0, you would say nothing. You wouldn't say the word 0. So that your brain imagined an object not accelerating, moving at steady speed. Its velocity came out as 0. You wouldn't imagine a moving thing at all. You would imagine a state. Velocity is nothing. And it was stuff like that he did. That like.
And certain stuff must be really cool at the velocity of nothing, right?
Quite boring at velocity. Well, actually, that was a lie. Yeah, certain stuff is kind of cool. I'll give you a very simple example. Just watch this, right?
What was that? Air?
No, what am I doing with it?
You're pushing it up.
I'm pushing it up, and then what does it do?
It sort of like stops, and it comes back.
Yeah. There's a certain moment of time.
Where
so
it stops. Where is 0?
Decelerating upwards, speed reducing, 25 mile per hour. I'm not saying I'm chucking this at 25 mile per hour, but imagine this, right? Imagine my hand is a speed meter, right, that you're watching. So watch this. I throw this up, 25 miles per hour, 19, 15, 14, 13, 7, 4, 3, 1, 0. Minus 1, minus 3, minus 5, minus 17.
What's the correlation between that?
But there is a moment at the very top
how long
of
is
this
that
arc,
moment? How long is that moment?
instantaneous. You cannot put that in terms of time. Technically, you would literally have to freeze time to stay at 0. Technically speaking, there is a unit of time. It's called fucking, what's it called? Planck's time? Planck's length?
Planck's constant?
No, Planck's length is the shortest possible distance.
Yeah.
So I suppose you could say that the moment it is not even moving a Planck's length up or down. Planck's length is a quantum thing again, when things get too small. But yeah, let's say instead of measuring this in meters or centimeters or nanometers, you're measuring it in Planck's length. The exact moment in time it is no longer moving even 1 Planck length up or 1 Planck length down, then it is at pause, at 0 speed in the air. It is hanging there.
And that's due to the quantum weirdness of gravity.
No, there's nothing quantum about it. It's just gravity.
But
Gravity just pulls shit.
yeah, but it's still okay.
Yeah,
I still think there's like, I don't know. There's
blast breath over there.
there's the idea that, you know, like you've put this much force into it, so you're somehow gonna exactly know that it's gonna be this point. So can you figure out what that point is by just knowing like how much force you're gonna put into it? I mean, we do it with our brains in a way.
No, we do it in mechanics. That's what our entire subject was.
But we do it in our brains as well.
Our whole stuff
with
with exercises like, if I chuck this ball off this cliff, when will it reach a certain point? When will it stop midair? What will be its such and such, you know. That's what we did. That was our whole thing.
That's cool. I kind of there's a tiny part of me which regrets like not following up science academically because I do actually read quite a lot about it.
By the way, want to know something interesting?
Alright.
The speed at which this goes up.
Uh-huh.
Wait, no. Let me rephrase this. Okay, when it falls, right? If there was no air in this room, I can tell you the exact speed of it as it falls.
Okay.
Just colloquially, not through any mathematical calculation. Imagine there's no air in this room.
Yeah.
I drop this,
Would
it
be
reaches that
the
instantaneous moment.
gravity?
Yeah, the gravity acceleration. Absolutely, 9.8.
something?
Yeah, meters per second squared.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Meters per second squared. It means every second that goes by, the speed of this increases by 9.8 meters per second.
Uh-huh.
So after 1 second, it's at 9.8 meters per second. After 2 seconds, it's at, what's 2 of 9.8? 19.6, and so on and so on and so on. It'll double and add one more and one more for each second. Given that there is no air. Because air has air resistance and drag pushing upwards.
So they carry on accelerating.
Yes.
That's weird because that is weird to think about.
Yeah.
Because like what if oh wow, I just had the biggest fucking epiphany of my life. So like you know how planets just keep on going around?
Uh-huh.
That's because they're also accelerating because they're in the vacuum of space.
Yeah. But there's like angular momentum and everything also carried into the planet itself moving has a certain force, right?
Yeah.
It's moving. So that's why we don't all just like into the sun.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like I've always
Well, now that works.
but I've always thought that it's like there's like a curve and we can sort of only but it makes way more sense why we
Alright, check this out, right?
keep that so consistent.
Check this out. Imagine this is the Earth rotating, right?
Okay.
I'm here. I jump. I land here.
Okay.
Right? I jump, I land here, I jump, I land here.
Yeah.
Now imagine I put some real force into that jump so that it really twisted around by the time I landed, right?
Okay.
Now imagine I put so much force into it that
That
every
keeps
time I should land, the planet revolves away from under me. I am orbiting.
Right.
Orbiting?
Orbiting is how much force.
No, orbiting is falling towards an object but missing it every time because of your
Yeah.
speed compared to that planet.
Yeah. But in the like if you think about planets, there's a very clear shape they follow, and to me it just made sense. Like right now, it just made sense why they actually kept that shape and it didn't alter way more than it does. Like why so consistent, which makes sense.
Well, yeah, because there's
Why
one
that-
principal driving force, gravity.
Yeah, and like that's why sort of astronomy sort of that literally I just had the biggest epiphany. I don't know why. I don't know what kind of like model I had before that in my
Yeah.
brain for why the shape is there, but I never
Shape
thought
of
about
what,
it.
the orbit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's and it's very consistent, which is like
Vaguely circular, always.
yeah.
You know, nothing orbits a planet like that.
Can you imagine how long it's been since the Earth started circling the sun? That it's actually gotten over its fucking curve and it's reached a fucking plateau to this just like one shape.
Yeah, but it's constantly expanding.
I guess so, but that's like
Because
that's
angular
like a
momentum is actually
consistent-
bigger than the force of gravity from the sun. So eventually, given billions of years, the Earth is just gonna... We're just gonna fucking launch off.
because it just carries on getting.
Yeah, because the momentum basically is not enough for the sun to sustain its gravity on us. So yeah, everything is slowly pulling away from each other because of its momentum, which is separate from the gravity.
So if there was a god, just let's just go there.
I'm not anti-God,
Would-
I just get a bit ranty with
I
with
know.
stuff like that.
I'm I'm on the same page as you
Yeah.
basically. Like, but if there was a god, and this is like super out there, imagine the Earth flings. So we reach that point, and Earth is about to like fling out of the solar system, but it has this like it flings out and aims right at another solar system where it can like fit in.
Yeah.
It's like divine destiny bullshit. Like.
Well, I'll do you one better. If there
I mean,
was
everybody
a
will
God,
die.
If there was, no, if there was,
Everybody
if there
will
was a
die.
God controlling this process, he would make sure that the Earth didn't fling out.
But God's a fucking like. I mean, God clearly likes
That's like, if we're
chaos.
assuming that God
God
is someone who
clearly
makes
likes
sensible
chaos.
decisions, as a God should.
Chaos is such a like ingrained thing, and I feel like just humans. I feel like it's like, and if He made us in His image, and it's like I feel like there's a lot of like this is basically anthropomorphizing, right? Like where if you try to think of an alien thing, you always like project yourself onto it.
I don't actually, and that fucking really annoys me about sci-fi, about how many aliens are human-like.
Missing out so hard, my dude.
Because I just want it to be, oh, we discovered Aliens. Oh, cool. Do they speak? No, they're actually they kind of look like trees, but they sway in the wind every now and again. But they're intelligent. They have a brain. We don't know what they're thinking. They're just there.
But you
they don't
have
do
to
anything.
light a fire.
Oh shit! We discovered another alien species. What is it? It literally looks like dog shit, but we know it's thinking. But it's a turd on the floor.
To light a fire in the brains of little children, so they follow up in your
I will
footsteps.
set fire to little children. I've done it before. No, I've really wanted to. Back in when I was really too drunk. God, some kid, I'd fucking napalm them. But, yeah. They're sticky enough, they don't really crumble. You don't even need to do that.
Very cool.
But yeah, no, it really annoys me that aliens have like 2 eyes and a nose. It's like, fucking stop that. Just because it has 2 tentacles on its face. Why would it have that? It evolved in a completely different fucking world.
That is only a problem you are having.
What? Only a problem I'm having?
This is your special way. This is only a problem you are having. Maybe like 20 other people. It's actually quite easy to like, just, you know, like, it's like the idea of the fourth wall.
Do you know who my favourite alien so far has been? In like anything? It would have to be...
Arrival.
What? I don't even know what that is.
What?
Actually, 2 things from the same show. One is the Daleks.
Interesting.
Right? Because they are literally a brain processing unit, but they are themselves like dog turds. But they are intelligent and can command things, so they've chosen to create a metal thing around them. That is kind of how diverse alien life would be. It grew up on a planet where it was just a fucking blob, but very intelligent. If it could somehow come into your metal to make a little casing for itself, and it evolved under that line, yes, you can have these metal killing structures with living brains inside them, right? And the other thing, which is technically cheating because she used to be treated. Do you remember that one episode of Doctor Who with Tennant where there was this fucking...
I totally forgot I was
Jesus.
fucking...
Where there was this fucking...